The death of Queen Elizabeth II and the ascension to the British throne of Charles III has reopened in Australia a so-called Republican debate. That was inevitable because the so-called Australian Republican movement has been saying for a long time that it will re-ventilate its story after the death of the old Queen. Okay. It has been said amongst Australian nationalists that the debate is entirely misformed. If we look at the speeches of the Queen over the last many decades, we will find that she has positioned herself politically as a globalist, as a multiculturalist, as a person not overly concerned with the survival of the British identity in Britain. It is also true that in the King's speech made a couple of nights ago, where he accepted, of course, that he was now the new king, he made many references to the diverse nature of Britain, to the many faiths and backgrounds that made it up, and of course he made many references to the many backgrounds and faiths which make up the British Commonwealth. I would say that as an institution, the British monarchy has always been part of globalism. It has pushed arguments that are not helpful to the idea of defending the Australian identity or heritage. I am aware that there are some Australians who don't sort of think that's true, and they think that somehow or other the Queen, and now her son, upheld and will uphold absolutely quintessential things about Australia and its place and whatnot in the world. I would say that's absolutely untrue. A long time ago now, I had a discussion with a man who I have a great respect for, Graham Campbell. Graham Campbell was the founder of the original Australia First Party. And in that dialogue, Graham said to me, "I've heard that you're actually an Australian Republican, what's the story?" And I said to Graham, "Well, you're right and you're wrong. You're right insofar as it's my view and the view of many Australian nationalists who've come forward over the many decades that a nationalist Australia could not govern itself or organise itself or defend itself if it was in any way a constitutional monarchy or linked by law to this other institution." However, I also said to Graham at the time of this conversation that if you offer me a referendum, or us a referendum, to change Australia to a so-called republic, we would vote no. We would vote no because it's not a republic of the Australian spirit, has nothing whatsoever to do with Henry Lawson. It's simply a merchants and bankers republic, something designed to stamp the Australian label on trade and goods. In other words, it's not an achievement of nationality. In fact, quite the contrary. It's, if anything, a reversal of the idea of nationality. It's an insult to the idea of nationality, and that no one would want it. The real question that clicks with the nationalists is more who owns the state power in Australia? What is the state power, and how can we possess the state power? No trick of turning Australia from a constitutional monarchy to a republic gives any of that whatsoever. The character of members of this royal family, and there may well be a lot to condemn them, is not the point at all. In fact, if anything, it's to be disregarded. There are some reasons that nationalists have considered that the current establishment does wish to put the monarchy aside, and it relates to issues of foreign policy, issues of property ownership, issues of the actual ownership of the continent itself. Putting aside the old monarchy may make it more, let's say, simple to globalise Australia, and that's a good reason to vote no to any referendum that's put up in the very near future. However, from the point of view of the Australian nationalists, we do not intend to preach monarchism. We do not intend to preach any idea that the monarchy of itself represents us or our ideals or the defence of Australianity at all. It is only incidental that these questions of property ownership and right come up in the entire debate. Nationalists have to be nationalists. They have to base their faith on Australia alone. Australia alone. That means that we define who we are and what we are by the native soil that we stand on. It means we fight for Australian independence based on the things that will lead to that independence. And we will define that independence in an Australian way. In a document which myself and another person wrote a number of years ago, we said that only in the absolute furnace of that political change would the old monarchy be legally put aside. And that alone, on our submission, should be the position of the nationalists at current times. Oppose fake republicanism, oppose the fake republic of the merchants and bankers, and retain your faith in Australia and Australia alone. Thank you.